All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our KaiNexus Training Team Office Hours webinar, episode 8, aka the Banna Rippey Show. My name is Ryan Rippey, and I am the Customer Enablement Manager here at KaiNexus. And I am joined, as always, by my partner in crime, Solutions Engineer Matt Banna. How you doing?
Here I am. I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. I feel like, well, I guess yesterday we were just recording another video, so I see you.
Be on the
too
lookout
often.
for that one coming up.
Hey man, listen, I have my 1 year anniversary coming up with KaiNexus next month.
Really?
Pretty excited. It's been 1 year.
Has it been a full? I can't believe it.
Episode 8. We've been doing these webinars for a while now.
I felt like I was just teaching about the product yesterday.
And now the what do they say? The pupil becomes the master, something like that.
We won't go that far.
Right. So for those of you new to our webinar series, welcome aboard. The way this works is Ben and I plan to nerd out here for the next half hour so that we got you on a KaiNexus topic that we're going to share with everyone in just a bit. The purpose of these webinars is for us to review the hottest topics and latest and greatest features suggested by our customers. So before I reveal our topic for today, let's just go over some housekeeping items. All right, the webinar is being recorded, so we'll go ahead and send out the slides and recording to everyone after the webinar. If you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to type those into the chat box. We will do our best to answer those in real time, as well as at the very end of the webinar if we have some time left over. All right, Banna, let's take a look at the topic that we have for today.
Drum roll.
Go ahead, thank you. Attributes, all right. So taking a look at what we have on the agenda, we'd like to kind of start off with just an intro to attributes, really cover the why behind attributes in KaiNexus. Then we'll actually get into adding some attribute values and taking a look at how those will populate on your forms for you. We'll go over how you can filter down some of your lists, add some columns maybe on a card on your board to help visualize those attributes. From there, we'll actually go in and build a pick chart so we can show how a specific board with those cards being filtered down, how you can take advantage of attributes in the system. From there, Banna, we'll go into impact attributes. So I think this is a functionality of the software that not too many people are familiar with. So we can go over exactly how to add attributes, for example, on impact. And then last but not least, we'll get into some actual attribute reporting. We have some really cool attribute reports that came out probably, I mean, we have our 2.2.9 release coming out this weekend. So that was back in the day, yeah. All right, perfect. So before we actually dive into KaiNexus, we are big supporters of Simon Sinek, starting with why. And so when we discuss the why behind attributes in KaiNexus, now attributes are going to allow a way to tag items in the system. So this is going to make it easier to filter down, like we said, some custom lists in the system, help visualize when those attributes are selected, and as we mentioned, also have the ability to report on those. All right, Banna, let's jump out of our PowerPoint here and actually dive into KaiNexus. So what I'd like to start off with, Banna, is let's go in and actually create an improvement that we've set up a bunch of attributes on and kind of take a look at the different types of attributes, and some of those other features and functionality that we can set up with those. So I'm going to come in and create an improvement. And so for everyone on the line, attributes are different from your text fields or your text areas in that the attribute is going to give you more of a drop-down selection. So there's going to be some predetermined values that you can select from for an attribute. For those of you familiar with KaiNexus, anytime you're entering information on a text field or a text area, this is simply, hey, I'm typing in this information, maybe I'm copying and pasting from my computer. So with attributes, as we can see here, for example, with our category, you can include some tooltips on your attributes. This will help as your users are going through their workflow, updating their forms. They can get a little bit more context into what information they should be entering. So this category attribute you'll see here, rather than the text field, we'll choose from the drop down where we have those predetermined values. And so, Banna, the one thing I noticed with this category attribute is we've gone in and made this field optional. So for all of our customer using KaiNexus, anytime you have something optional here on the create screen, you don't necessarily have to include the selection or the information here. You can do it later in the process. You can come back in, edit it, update it later. So you can make attributes required or optional. We'll see in just a second that you can also make them required at different stages within the process, right? So taking a look here at this improvement, let's actually throw an improvement in the system, Banna. So we have our Banna Rippey show. Here's my description. And then, so I'm going to select, for example, a category here. And this is actually a multi-select attribute. So that's the other thing we want to talk about, is that whenever you're configuring an attribute field on a template, this can be single or multi-select. So here we can see, for example, I can choose multiple categories to help tag this particular improvement in the system. All right, so taking a look, we also have a priority attribute. And you'll see here that we've actually gone in on the back end and made this value of high the default value for this particular attribute.
So that way, once that improvement pops up, if you have something that you want to default to that people can already have selected, boom, there it is.
Yep, one less thing you got to worry about initially on that create screen, for example. And we've also
still change it.
Yeah, absolutely. We can come in here and actually make this one of the other values that we can choose from here. So this just sometimes helps eliminate the guessing game for a user. We can also, as we'll see later, add notes on our attributes as well. So this helps with, again, just kind of providing some more clarification, some more insight, more context when you're selecting a particular value. You'll be able to hover over, for example, that attribute and see the notes on there. And here's an example, Banna. So here on our state attribute, we've actually made this required. So we'd actually have to come in here and select a value in order for us to move forward. This is being required for us here on this initial create screen, right? So let's say, for example, I was going to choose behind schedule on this improvement. And then, Banna, two of our more recent attribute types we've introduced are both people and location. So anybody who's not familiar with these attributes, for example, people is going to grab a list of all of your KaiNexus users. So you'd be able to come in here and select a particular user in the system. Same for location. When you have your organizational hierarchy built out in the system, if you want to choose a location, this will actually pull from that network structure you have set up. Banna, in terms of, I guess, common use case, if, for example, you have an approval and assignment process in place, and maybe while you're filling out an improvement form, you want to maybe have a suggested responsible person or suggested responsible location for an improvement, this is a good way to kind of use a people or location attribute to find the location or person in the system. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm actually going to create this improvement, Banna, and I want to take a look at, once we have this new improvement in the system, we've gone in and actually configured, I think we have an attribute that's going to be required at assigning, right? So if everybody kind of thinks about the task and improvement cycle in KaiNexus, it's the initial creation, then it's the assigning, and then ultimately it's going to be resolving and completing that item, right? So we saw everything that was displayed for us on that initial create screen. Now when I come into my improvement, I can actually go in and assign this out to someone. So maybe I'm going to make myself responsible for this. I can add my start and my due date. And as I scroll down here, we now see that we have a strategic initiative that we can come in here and actually populate as well. So this is a way for us to put an attribute on the assign, and then once we actually assign this out, I think it should assign. So once you finish working on the particular improvement, when you come in and resolve that improvement, you'll see that there's also going to be this, for example, strategic initiatives required on complete. So again, if you're looking at your workflow, your process, if you want to make any fields, in this case we're talking about attributes, you want to make those required at any point in the process, we have the ability to set that up on the back end. All right, with that, Banna, so again, we kind of saw where attributes are showing up, right? They show up everywhere in your form. Well, yeah, we'll see in the system that they're everywhere. But when you're initially populating those attributes, they're going to show up on your form, whether that's on the initial creation, when you're assigning, or when you're actually resolving and completing an item. And now we're also going to see, as we continue on, that attributes are going to show up when we're filtering. Attributes are going to show up if we want to visualize those as a column on a card. And then what we'll get into towards the end of our webinar today is any sort of attribute reporting. So Banna, why don't we take a look at once you have an attribute in place, so for everyone, if you want to add an attribute to your actual project improvement or task workflow, make sure you reach out to your CE representative so we can go ahead and configure that. But Banna, once that attribute's in place, admins at our organizations can actually go in and add the specific values. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. Once that attribute folder per se is there, you can go in, you could add any value that you want. So we're going to head over to our admin section here on the left-hand side. And you'll see the users and the system and organizations, and right below that we have our attributes. And so here's this list of all the attributes that we're using, category we were using before, and we saw state and strategic initiative. But Ryan and I've created 2 attributes just for today. We have effort, which is totally blank, so there's nothing in here, so we're going to go and add a couple in today.
Okay, cool. So this is we're going to set up our values now so that when we actually go to that effort attribute on a form, we'll be able to select from the values we're about to include right now.
Yes.
Perfect.
So if we want to add a new attribute value, we come in and we hit this plus button, and it gives us 2 options. We can create a folder to house these attributes.
Okay.
So if you have multiple folders, maybe different types that you kind of want to subcategorize,
okay,
it's a good way to do that. Or we can create this effort attribute. Now, creating effort gives us a name, so we can say hi here, and we have our description.
So the description, whatever you're going to enter in for the description here, when you hover over that high value, again, this is that tooltip that's going to give you a little bit more context so you understand, why you would be selecting that value.
Yes. Then we can also include a note, as we saw earlier. We can even require it. So when you select that attribute, you have to put a note in about why you selected it or provide more details around.
So like a common use case, Banna, is if we were setting up some attributes, maybe we had a value of like other, and so we'd want to include that note and require the note so that the person can go in and type, whatever it was that wasn't showing up initially.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Correct. Last, we can put in an icon code.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
This is my favorite part. We use the website Font Awesome. It houses a bunch of different cool icons. You can ask us for the link. You can ask your customer experience representative for the link. We're happy to provide it for you, so you can pick whatever you want. We're just going to go with a simple one, a circle, and pick a color. So high effort is probably
go with red.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Perfect. So
once we
went in there and filled out all that information, we now have that high attribute value that we'll be able to select from that drop down.
So we'll go in and we'll add another one real quick.
Okay, so we'll do a low. All right, awesome. So Banna, what if I wanted to, when I go to the drop down on this effort attribute, what if I want to see high first instead of low? Is there a way for me to sort this, or how does that work?
Well, luckily, if we hit the A to Z button, we can alphabetize.
Okay, so we
and the high will pop up first.
Awesome.
But if it wasn't alphabetical, wasn't a coincidence like that, you can also drag and drop.
Ah, love that. Love
to
the drag and drop feature.
Want, of course.
Very nice. So as you can see here, if you need to come in and make any sort of edits to the values, if you hover over that attribute value, you'll select the edit option and come back to that screen that Banna just walked through. If you need to remove a value for admins, you can do that as well. And then, of course, you can refresh your list as you're going in and adding in all of those values. So let's go in and populate our impact one too, Banna.
So add these ones real quick here. Same process. High impact is probably going to be a good thing though here.
Right. So I'd say we'll go green.
Probably green for this circle.
Yeah.
And then we'll add our low impact.
Okay.
Now we can do whichever shapes we want. We can do square for this one. Sure. Here's the link right here, so we can pop up whatever we want.
Whatever floats your boat, Banna. Awesome.
And I see that's a square instead of that circle.
Yeah,
there's
I was
tons of different cool icons.
Shapes, so thanks, I appreciate that.
Were you?
I was all right.
Great. So we just created a couple attributes there.
Perfect.
Now we can also make them show up on lists or cards or anywhere else in the platform.
Okay, so this comes back to our why of being able to visualize attributes in the system. So yes. You went over to lists here. So
we're in list view right now.
Okay.
You can have attributes pop up in your list or your tree view.
Okay.
So we can select one of the drop downs in the columns here and find one of our attributes that we picked, maybe this category.
Okay.
And now categories popped up on the right-hand side, and we can see all the ones that have populated category for this entire list.
Okay. Now, what if I just wanted to filter this list down by a specific category? How would I go about doing that?
So we can have our head over to our ellipses, hit the filter button, and then pick a criteria. So all your attributes are going to be listed at the bottom.
Very cool.
If you know which one you're looking for, you can go ahead and just type it in, select it.
Oh, and then you can even
go
a step further.
Anything that has one of those attributes, or you can select for specific types.
Awesome.
Which is pretty cool. So you can do anything with none of these attributes, any with any of these attributes, or even multi-select as many as you were looking for.
Very cool.
Now we can also do this on a card. So I'm gonna head back to my personal dashboard. I have my new improvements list right in front of me. We're gonna head down to the view button and re-hit this list. So now we have our columns. We can search for the one we're looking for, our category. Hit that plus button. When we save it, it'll pop right back up.
Awesome.
On this card.
So list view, tree view on a card on a board. You can also come in here and add those specific columns that you want to visualize. And if I wanted to see maybe that category as the first column, how would I go about doing that, Banna?
So if you want to just change it for now, we can drag it and move it over.
Okay.
But if you want that change to stick, you have to go back into your list menu.
Drag and drop.
Drag and drop. Drag and drop.
All right. Very cool, Banna. I appreciate you going through that. So in addition to talking about our lists and our card view, Banna, we went in and we created the impact and the effort attributes. Let's take a look at how those attributes can be used to help build out a board in the system. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new board. And this is going to be my pick chart. So typically we'll go maybe half by half here. Then I'll go ahead and save this board. So now once I'm in my board, I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of one of those item lists and be able to filter down by an attribute, right? So let's come in here, we'll do our item list. We put the impact and effort on the improvement, right? So I'm going to use that first workflow for our improvements. Now, usually when you're doing a pick chart, you're going to be associating these different cards by the effort and impact. So this first card, I'm going to go ahead and say anything that's going to be a low effort and a high impact. So once I've come in here and included my name, to get more granular with that criteria, I'm going to come in and actually select from the attributes that we have here, right, Banna? So we said this is going to be low effort, so I can select effort, and then I'll select that value for low. And then also we'll go with our high impact. There it is.
There we are.
All right. So let's go ahead and add that card. So typically with your pick charts, or some people will refer to this as a quadrant chart, I've heard as well. So you're going to have 4 cards on this board. So rather than going in and doing extra work, let's just go ahead and copy this card. So I'm going to copy to this board. And then now I can come in here and I'll change the name of this. So we're going to also want to do a high effort, high impact, right? Then I can just actually update my values here. So I'll put this over here. Come in and copy our other card. High impact, right? High impact, or high effort, low impact.
Yes. And of course, you'll get the idea. Copy it a couple times. We switch up each attribute for the criteria that we're looking for.
All right. Let's do one more. So we got our high effort, high impact, low impact, low effort, high impact. What are we missing, Banna?
Low effort, low impact.
Got it.
Maybe stuff that we want to put off till later, we don't really need to do right now. Probably our lowest priority on the list.
All right. So taking a look now, we have our 4 cards. We can come in here and order these appropriately based on our pick chart. So we'll have low effort, high impact here in the top left, do maybe a high effort, high impact in the top right, have our low effort, low impact, as well as our high effort, low impact. Oops, let's move this up. So we can take this a step further, Banna. We can come in and actually do the layout and add a header to help distinguish between these. But as we can see here with our low effort, high impact, that Banna and Rippey show based on how we tagged with those attributes is showing up in the top left card here. So again, attributes and the ability to filter on, for example, these cards on a board is just going to help with that workflow. Let's switch gears. Let's actually talk about some attribute reporting. We got about 8 more minutes left. We have some really great reports around attribute. Why don't you take us to the report section and see what we got cooking?
Yeah, so we're going to head over to our reports. And maybe if you haven't spent a lot of time on reports, you may not have noticed this is one of our newer reports that we've added. So we have an attribute summary. You can create graphs and pie charts and things of that nature. You have your attribute impact, where you can track the impact of anything with those attributes. And then you have your attribute activity, so you can see what types of projects and what percentage of projects make up certain attributes.
So let's dive in, Banna. So our attribute summary, we can view the number of items of each attribute in a bar graph, in a Pareto chart. We can look at it in a pie chart, which is really cool as well. When you come in here, by default, this is going to choose the 15 most used attributes in the system. If you want to change your dates, you can come over here and customize those. You also can filter down by your location on the left-hand side here, and you can add some further filter criteria with this advanced filters at the top. Now, in terms of how we can visualize this, as I mentioned, we can look at this as a horizontal bar. We can take a look at it as a vertical bar. And right now, it's just showing us our totals. You can click into these bars and see all of those particular items in the system that are tagged with that attribute. We can also take a look at this in terms of statuses, Banna. So we can see all of those particular items in this case that have an on-track attribute selected and they're in the new status. So a lot of
us run to the red.
Yeah, so you can also take a look at those overdue items here in red and take a look. And as you can see at the bottom, you can define which statuses you want to take a look at here. Let's just kind of take a look here so we see our pie chart and how this is interactive, and then we can also take a look at the Pareto chart here as well.
What if I wanted to look at just one attribute set? Like I want to look at my categories.
Yeah, great question. So let's come back to our horizontal bar here, for example. So in this attribute section, this is where we can say, hey, you know what? I just want to focus on the category attribute and see how those values are being displayed. So in this case, improve morale, this particular attribute value is one of the higher selected amongst our category attributes in the system. All right, Banna, let's jump out of the attribute summary. Why don't we talk a little bit about the attribute impact? So this is going to be, like you said, view the impact of your items broken down based on attribute.
Yeah, so when we jump in here, we have a couple of columns like we see normally in a list type view. So we have what the attribute is, strategic initiative here, and then next over we have the value. So we have the mission and culture value in our strategic initiative attribute. We can see that we have 3 completed and 67% of these were as a change, and we saved 97 hours. Now, each of these shows different parts of our impact, whether it's quality, safety, satisfaction, some of our financial impacts here down the right-hand side. Now, of course, we can go in and filter for specific attributes. Maybe we just want to see those strategic initiatives. I guess our finance and our safety initiatives have really been saving us a ton of money here.
Yeah, and so again, on this particular report, you can come in, you can change your dates, you can come in and add some advanced filters, locations, but also what's really nice about this is you do have the ability to export this to Excel here as well.
Finance departments will love that.
Yeah, so let's jump out of our attribute impact. So last but not least is gonna be our attribute activity. So with our attribute activity, we can view the activity of our items broken down by the attribute. So if we click into attribute activity here, now we're taking a look at, as you mentioned, we have our columns for our attribute, the specific value selected, the total number of items in the system with that value, as well as the percent, so the percent of items that meet our criteria. On the right-hand side, we also have our status bar. So we can see, for example, let's use an attribute value. So we've been going with our category and our strategic initiative today. So we're taking a look at our category. The status bar on the right-hand side, again, is going to show us all of those items that are currently in a new status, overdue, active, run to the red. And again, you can go ahead and edit your dates in here. We can do some advanced filters, your locations, and export this data as well to Excel.
Now, you may be looking at this percent list and say, why doesn't this add up to 100? Isn't this everything? Well, this list captures anything that has that value. So we have 10 total improvements with the improved morale category attached. But if we have an improvement that does not have an attribute selected, it'll still be filtered for our denominator, what our percentage we're going off of, but it won't be included in this list because it doesn't have an attribute value selected. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you for providing that clarity. All right, Banna. So it looks like we have about 3 minutes left. Why don't we just do a quick look at the impact attributes? Let's just take a look at. I think we have an improvement in the system. Kind of walk us through what that looks like and how we would want to use that in KaiNexus.
Yeah. So let's head back to our board here, and we'll take one of our improvements and we'll go to the resolution phase. Now, underneath cost savings, when we add value, I actually added an attribute specifically for this cost savings. So normally you see your dollar amounts and how you calculated, but here we added something we call category, which we've been using all day. So we can really help dive down, filter, and separate out this cost savings if we're trying to filter it or really drive into those values saved.
Right. So we can this by adding an attribute on an impact, for example, with cost savings, as we see here, this is allowing us to maybe differentiate between impact categories. It's really one more way to drill down even further by running reports, running lists on any completed improvements with change that you've selected one of these particular attribute values for, right? So it just allows further clarification during that resolution process.
One more way to filter for these as well.
Exactly, yeah. So you can also filter for these similar to how we showed with those other attributes today. Awesome, Ben, I think that's everything we had on our agenda. We got another minute here. Let's see if we have any questions that we can address by the topics covered here today. It looks like somebody was having some issues with sound, so we should be good there. All right, so I think that covers everything. Banna, anything else? Let's talk about.
Well, I know our user conference is coming up in less than 2 months, so okay. I hope all of you are signed up. We're excited to see you, meet you there. You can head to our website underneath the Learn tab, and you can click on this user conference link, find everything you need to register, get your hotels, meet yours truly, and I guess Ryan will be there too, so that'll be okay.
Hey, thanks for that.
While you're there, you can also check out our customer blog at blog.kainexus.com. We have a specific blog for our customers, so you can learn advanced tips and tricks, and then you have our improvement blog in general, so you can learn more about improvement. And if you're really having trouble, you can head over to our support site, or you can ask your customer experience advisor to help you out with those KaiNexus questions. Now, we have our next customer training team webinar on July 26th toward the end of the month. So be on the lookout for the signups. We're sure that you'll see it pop up in your instance. So excited to have you back there.
Yeah, we'll be talking all about our 2.2.9 release that's going out this weekend. So definitely encourage everyone to sign up for that to understand the new features that are now available in KaiNexus.
Well, it's a big one. It's a big one. So we're excited.
Yes.
Well, this has been Matt, Banna, and Ryan Rippey with KaiNexus.
Keep improving.
And we'll see you Kai next time.